All right now. Top of the morning, top of the evening, top of the night, whatever time zone you are on, we are live again. I'm back. Moment of silence for all those who have lost their lives. Do a sound check in the back real quick. Sound check in the back real quick. Sound check in the back. That's right. Let's remember this. If we can look up, we can get up. If we can get up, we can go up. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. Hopefully everybody's been doing the best that they can in the situation that they are in. With that being said, let's get right back off into this music and get into it.
Your folks might understand you.
Make sure the sound is good.
By and by.
Class is in session.
Just move on up toward your destination. Though you may find from time to time complication. Bite your lip.
Hey, Em.
And take the trip. Though there may be wet road ahead and you cannot slip, just move on up. For peace you find into the steeple of beautiful people where there's only one kind.
I've been watching both.
So hush not, child.
That foolishness they pulled today about black pastors not being in court.
Your folks might understand you by and by. Move on up and keep on wishing. Remember your dream is your only scheme, so keep on pushing. Take nothing less than the supreme best. Do not obey, rumors people say, but you can pass the test. Just move on up.
Making sure the sound is back in.
To a greater day.
Breaker 109. You making sure the sound is
with
back
just a little faith.
Let me say it
your mind to
Breaker
you can surely do it.
The sound is back in. The hammer's down and we digital forensics down. Breaker 10-9, the hammer down and we digital forensics down over here tonight. Let's roll.
Just move on up. Move on up. We move on up. Watch
Wait a
out.
minute. I don't think y'all heard me. I said breaker 10-9. The hammer's down. The sound is in. We rolling over here tonight. Digital forensics is in session. Digital forensics is in session. We rolling over here tonight. Breaker 10-9. The hammer's down. We digital forensics bound. We rolling over here tonight. Let's go.
Just move on up. We move on up. Move on up.
Let's go. Class is in session. ready to learn? Introduce myself and get ready to learn. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Let me get ready. Okay, as mentioned previously in the other live, when the sound went out, we will visit that again, the song later. Okay. Dre Day 3000 amp is easy. What up? Letha Lee Bushes. Oh, come on with this going on in the background. What is going on now? Why is this processing? What is up? What is up? Give me a minute to see what's processing. All right. Why that is processing. To get this good old fashioned PowerPoint up. Let's get off into this. Whoops. Whoops. Huh? Wait a minute. Oh, okay. What? Y'all feel all right? Do y'all feel all right tonight or this morning, whatever time zone you on? Do you feel all right? It's gonna be all right. As soon as they let me, I'm gonna stop playing now. All right, so here we go. All right. Shut on. Okay, there we go. Let me make sure. Okay. All right. So now here we go. Pull this back up right. Can't have all that going on in the background. And I said class is in session and it's nothing visually for the people to see. Pause. Wait a minute. Class is in session. Okay. I don't know what's wrong with meeting, but is meeting going in and out? Because y'all shouldn't be. Okay. Zoom, get it together. We already had a conversation. Graphic content, parental consent. Viewers' discretion is advised. No nonsense news. Let's move on. This video may not be suitable for certain audiences. It may be graphic in nature. Okay, so let's get to these shenanigans. Christina is not a shenanigan. Shout out to M Easy in the building tonight for making all things happen behind closed doors and behind the scenes. A brother like no other who puts in that work. Thank you, M Easy. Freedom of information request sent on that data, that electronically stored information as it pertains to Christina. We want the video surveillance from body cams, closed circuit captioning, cameras, dash cams, and all others. So let's get here. Science is provable and math is solvable. The defense, the forensic expert you all brought in was getting paid $9,000 for what? Close to $10,000 for that? And this is what the court was today, going back and forth, asking the forensic experts questions that could have been answered. Well, the one had to come back in that was for the prosecutors. this could have been answered simply. They're using, let you all listen to some of this. Both were using digital forensic software tools. Basically, they do the same thing. And I was sitting there trying to figure out today what the argument was about. I said, oh, this is about people not understanding what digital forensics is about. And from my perspective, especially the prosecutor, when he was questioning the one who used AMP5, okay, the software version, AMP5, which is, again, forensic tool, digital forensic software. And he was questioning him. I was thinking, y'all don't even know what y'all talking about. And the judge sitting up there, I'm like, none of you all really know what the heck y'all talking about when it comes to this. But I'm not gonna make this up. This is stuff you just got to see for yourself. I think we have enough information over here now till everybody that's in the chat can tell me everything leaves a digital fingerprint. That would have been answered in court right away. Well, why is this like this? Well, did you alter this? Why are the pixels da 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 da? Well, if I altered anything, it would show up. It would leave a digital fingerprint. You would see that in the printout report. Yeah, you would see it. It would show up. Graphs would look blurred. Pixels and charts would be off. The pattern, the abnormalities, let me be specific, and the patterns would be broken. And if you're using cubes, the pattern would be off there too. You would see an abnormal pattern if anything was altered. And so that was the question was today. And all he did was enhance an image using a software tool, digital forensic software tool. ACE, Input ACE. I was certified to use Input ACE. You're supposed to recertify every 2 years. I haven't recertified. I said, I need to recertify. But one software tool, digital forensic software tool, may be no better than the other. They're all basically there to do the same things. Some may have more options than others, but at the end of the day, they basically all do the same thing. So this was foolishness to me today, a little bit of foolishness, but I know you are, Amp. I don't know how long they're going to take, but I know you are. Right, Amp. No shame in the racism during the Ahmaud Arbery trial today. That was absolutely ridiculous. That defense attorney was ridiculous, but here it is.
On paragraph 19 of his preliminary report dated July 31st, 2021, in subsection 3A1. That subsection reads,
Page of the report, counsel.
Page 19, subsection 3A1.
This is TrialL, by the way.
This pertains to the shots at Joseph Rosenbaum. That subsection reads, the 4 shots occur in approximately 1 second with the times in hundredths of a second of 0.26, 0.25, and 0.23.
So prosecutor is talking right now, and I'm gonna let you hear
1, 2, 3, and 4.
the defense.
The court has also ruled that the witness can testify as to the information contained on page 22 of his report in paragraph 4A and 4A1. That pertains to the timing of the shots in what counsel describes as the second event, where the defendant shoots at the unidentified individual, Mr. Huber and Mr. Grosskreutz. And there's some timing information there. I won't read it right now because it's a little bit longer. But the court's order is very specific, that those are the items he can testify about with regard to timing. There's another section of his report.
Let me fast forward past this because the prosecutor and the judge,
right now,
the prosecutor called the judge out on principle.
We have document, which I guess is exhibit number 142, that was just presented to us this morning. It appears to have.
Okay, so they just got it this morning. Understandable. You want time.
Their expert witness is accurate. They have every incentive to make sure that that court order gives them the opportunity to get in all of the evidence through this expert that they feel they need to get in. Despite having that very powerful incentive, they did not object, they did not contact the court or me with any reaction to that order. You are the referee. The parties argue about things and you make a decision. We reached an agreement on this at the Daubert hearing.
Principle is principle, Judge.
I proposed this compromise, Your Honor. I did, because there was some back and forth about the extent of the use of force issues and all that stuff.
Hey, Eric,
And I
how
said,
you
well, what about
doing?
if we
Cook
just
what you
agree?
got.
Dr. Black can talk about the timing of the shots and the sense making.
How are you, sir?
And I then drafted this order. You gave the defense an opportunity to object. They didn't.
Cook
You
what
signed
you
it.
got. You doing some
And
dressing for the
My
holidays?
recollection, and again, I know you referenced the transcript, but
Do some dressing and
in his
ham.
preliminary report, Your Honor, all
Okay,
he
let me get
talks
back
about
folks'
is
classes
the
in
timing of the shots.
session.
In event one, the 4 shots of Rosenthal.
Okay.
In event
So,
2, the shots of
Cook what you got.
against
Make
the
sure you do some dressing and ham for the holidays. Uh, just saying. But okay, so the judge allowed certain things to be admitted in the court, and this is dealing with digital forensics. And I said classes in session. They took all day today on this, and this could have been resolved in an hour to 30 minutes, maybe. Come up, ask your questions, do you cross, da 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 da, get it out the way. Everybody over here, math is solvable. Digital forensics is science and it's math. You can always solve for math. Everything leaves a digital fingerprint. So they just kept, and I'm gonna let you hear it, going on and on and on about a pixel. We know what a pixel is over here. What is a pixel? A pixel is a point. Okay, you get a bunch of pixels together, it's a bunch of points. Okay, it's a bunch of points. All right. Yeah, classes in session. All right, let me get past this because him and the judge is gonna go back and forth. And so let's get past after they came off of the break and get to, I don't know what this man was supposed to be. Okay. So again, the first gentleman from the prosecutor's side, he used AMP5, again, a digital software forensic tool. Well, today, the gentleman that came in today, he used Input ACE, which is another digital forensic software tool. Basically, they both do the same thing. Remember over here, if you can flash back to me utilizing several different forensic software tools. And no matter which tool I use, the end results were always the same across the board. You know why? Because it's math. It is math. This could have been answered so easily today. And I said, this is what happens when you in court and don't nobody, and you got an attorney and another attorney. Oh, okay, they understand authentication to a degree. And the judge already said he didn't really understand, he old. So he didn't understand none of the stuff. And he didn't stay up to date with the latest and current technology. But he does know about authentication and data integrity. And so this whole conversation about authentication and data integrity could have been resolved like that. Excuse me, no tool is better than the other. They may have more options, but from a utilization perspective, if you want to compare and contrast, you let the people from the field, my field, or field of engineering, field of science, and field of technology tell you what we think about the digital forensic tools. Because again, at the end of the day, the results were the same. It's going to be the same. It was a little bit perplexing for me today as they set up in court and they argued over pixels from an enhanced image. And the one who used AMP5, he is a imaging forensic expert. All of the other stuff, nothing about that. Knows absolutely nothing about that. And I understand when he kept saying, I can't tell you anything about the algorithms. Well, that's not his specialty. That's not his field. And the opposing counsel, the defense just kept badgering and asking and asking. I'm thinking, it's a difference. He went to school for photography. He didn't go to school for what I went to college for: digital forensics, network forensics, computer forensics. They made sure that before I obtained the degrees I got, I was well versed. Diversity of some of everything, diversified. And so this argument here, I said this could have been shut down like that. But let's get to it. Let's get to it. Class is in session. I'm gonna let you hear some of him, and then, I got notes and examples in the background, but here comes the defense expert, and I said he could have shut it down. If he should have shut it down. He could have simply shut this down. But here he goes. Uh-oh, I don't want to go back to the beginning.
And his testimony. Observation number 3, which has been labeled PSSP, till observation 31, which is now going to be labeled STP. What is the total amount of time of this event?
Wait a minute, let me go back to what he said he do. Hold on. Because I was trying to figure out, okay, he's a doctor, and what did he get his doctorate degree in? Excuse me. And another reason it took more than 5 minutes coming back to this live stream is I was eating in the background. I'm going to tell the truth and shame the foolishness tonight. What's in the background?
How long was that 5-minute break? All right, we're going to be on our best behavior from here on in. Mr.
Thank you. Dr. Black, just to back up, the time calculations that I asked you to perform of the events of August 25th of 2020 from what we would refer to as, I'm trying to find it, observation number 3, which has been labeled PSSP now. Oh.
And they arguing over pixels and image enhancements.
Is this TV on?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what all they did today, basically.
What does that say in Chinese?
Cross-examinations on this.
It's just a screensaver.
This should have took no more than an hour.
What is it?
It's just a screensaver.
Really 30
of a
minutes
certain type
could have
of
shut
content.
this down.
No.
30 to 45 minutes.
Dr. Black, from, as I said, observation number 3, which has been labeled PSSP, till observation 31, which is now going to be labeled STP. What is the total amount of time of this event?
2 minutes and 55 seconds, approximately. It's calculated out. There's a bunch of variables in there, but approximately 2 minutes and 55 seconds, slightly under 3 minutes.
please show video PSSP, screen 3.
Can you refer to it by number, please?
Observation 3.
Observation 3.
Doctor got paid $9,000, close to $10,000 so far to go out and use the tool. And
Now, have you done anything to change this video?
No, sir. You'll notice in the screen it's at 100%, 1280 by 720, and if you wanted more knowledge about it, it's at 30 frames per second, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
But
Please,
it's unchanged.
please play the video.
Okay, this is just a still frame, sir, that you want.
Okay.
There. But I can play from
we
here
know
if you're
about
asking.
still
Yes.
frames over here too, right?
It's going to have to finish processing for a second.
We know about frames per second over here too, right?
Stop, please. Now, that is in this calculation of time, that would be the 0 frame. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, at this point,
0 frames starting from what
Here.
point?
that would be approximately where what you're referring to as a 0 frame. That red mark would be the 0 frame.
Okay. Now, the next, observation 4, which is JRPK. Did you do anything to enhance this video?
No, but I'm going to have to, with the numbering while we were gone, you're asking for an observation that's no longer sitting in this. I mean, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're asking for.
Well, in the Exhibit 142, observation 4, we've agreed to label it JRPK.
Right, but, okay. As part of what happened with what we had discussed, the observation 4 that's on here is no longer in the menu to the left. If I have to, I'd have to bring it back. I can get you there if you
Is
want.
observation 5 available?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and observation 5, the event described has been labeled BBTB. Has anything been done to enhance this?
No, and this idea, as I'm bringing it up, in answer to your question, there's different places where observation 5 that you're referring to is being
And by the way, for the
shown
record,
in different videos. This is one of
you
those.
can enhance
Okay, please play
images
this video.
that are admissible in the court of law, as long as you're staying within the perimeters. Let's be clear. Graphic
Stop.
language. Forgot this.
Going to observation 7, which has been now labeled JREC. Do you have that?
I do, sir.
Okay, so let me stop this right here. Again, this is the doctor that got paid $10,000, close to $10,000, and all he did was use a digital forensic tool, come to court and explain some stuff. And unfortunately, the defense team had tried to make it seem like his digital forensic tool and the authenticity of the data, the ESI, electronically stored information that he was presented before the court, was authentic and had more data integrity than the other. Excuse me. Both had raw data. Now, he may have been able to explain a little bit more detail than the other gentleman, because they do two different things, but he didn't do a good job explaining to me either today. You know, he's explaining what he's doing in it, but some of this stuff that the defense is kind of was going after, nitpicky after, he could have shut down in a greater degree. Now, eventually he did start telling them like, okay, this is the, and all he had to say, excuse me, He used this digital forensic tool. I use that digital forensic tool, software tool. Both basically do the same thing. And everything leaves a digital fingerprint. So if anything that you've given us, and the other gentleman didn't say that, and I wish he would have, but again, he's imaging forensics. He probably don't know this other aspect. He knows in terms of dealing with images. If I would have altered anything, it would have left a digital fingerprint. And you could see a pattern that's abnormal in the charts and the graphs that get printed out. Okay, so let's go here. I said class was in session. Let me get to the class real quick. Now, remember when we did this, okay? Photo response, non-uniformity map, when we talked about maps from photos, okay? Noise, characteristics of an imaging sensor, a fixed noise pattern used in a camera source identification. When uniform light falls on the camera, a sensor, each pixel should output the exact same value. The difference between true response from a sensor and a uniform response. Remember, we discussed that. Class is in session because they got to talking about an image, and this back and forth over software could have been resolved like that, because you can use autopsy. That's another digital forensic tool. You can use Intercase Enterprise, which is internationally utilized. It's the digital forensic software that is internationally used. Okay. It's different ones out there. It's some are no longer out there. They've phased them away, but it's a host of forensic software tools that can be utilized that do the exact same thing. Period. All right. Clone key points. Okay, a clone is a comprehensive duplicate of the electronic media. And I put in there hard drive disk. This is the bit by bit copy of the source media coming from the original source that did the data captures, okay? They are working copies to replace original evidence for analysis, like as opposed to bringing the entire hard disk or hard drives into court. You bring an authenticated copy. Okay. Also, for preservation purposes, they are working snapshots. So let's get to it. All right. We talk about hash when we do authentication. Hash values that match, a bit by bit copy. Okay. And this is where the digital fingerprints come in. If you are altering, if you are tampering with something, it's going to leave a fingerprint. They could have resolved this going back and forth in court over a pixel and over image enhancement quickly. I would say that if you've been watching or frequenting this channel and you go back to Kanika Jenkins' information, you could have gone in court and answered these questions your own self. It's like that. Class is in session. I mean, it was, and I thought, wow, they really don't know what somebody either do know or they just all really don't know. And this is some foolishness. And the defense walked out there feeling like, ha ha ha, we got you one up. And I was thinking the tools are the tools. How simple can y'all be? One tool is no better than the next, if you really want to be technical about it, because they're doing the same thing. The math and the equations are not going to change. The formulas are the formulas. The equations are the equations. The linear equation are the linear equations that are used to solve this math. The algebraic equations that are used in this are the algebraic equations that are used. Trigonometry that is used in this is the trig that is used. Probability that is used in this is the probability that is used. Period. In any other type of math that is utilized, is the math that is used. Period. You have certified tools, open source tools, free tools that do the same thing. And the results across the board will be the same. Okay, an error detection scheme that performs calculations on a binary. And we remember, we know what a binary is, right? Binary deals with numbers. All right. Value of packet / frames, because they keep talking about frames. They kept bringing up the frames and packets. We know packets of data transmitted, data in a packet form. Frames. We are not new to these words, and which is appended to a packet frame as fixed length field, The calculation can be a sum, a checksum, a remainder of a division of the resulting of a hash function of the original device that validate if the media is an exact duplicate or forensically sound copy. Hash values. Hash. A hash is a representation of a block of data. This stuff they were doing in court today was so, all right. And remember, we also discussed hexadecimal, a mathematical notation for representing numbers in base 16. The number 10 through 15 are expressed as A's and F when you start dealing with digital forensics and algorithms. Okay, so if you write 10H or 0 times 10 are both hexadecimals, that would equal 16 when you start dealing with math and digital forensics. Okay. Remember, we also went over histogram. It's a chart that shows frequencies. And I wish they would have came in. Well, the other gentleman probably did have his charts, the doctor. And so the one for the prosecutors had to come back to court today and testify and bring printouts, bring a report of what he did, the reports for the work that he did pertaining to the image enhancements from the video footage. All right. So histogram, a chart that shows frequencies for intervals of values of a metric variable, such intervals as known as bins, and they all have the same width. They represent numerical data. Okay, this is math. Like I said, some of this stuff could have been answered so easily, even yesterday, when it came to the video, and they were going back and forth over that cell phone, whether it was captured in an iPad or whatever it was captured on. A lot of these things could have been easily resolved. Now, if you look at the blue line, that would be the original line. If you look at the red line, on this graph, that will be the section where it's leaving a digital fingerprint that the pattern is off, is abnormal, and it's been some tampering going on with this image. Okay. When you do a printout, this is how it shows up. It is frequencies in percentage over coefficient values. This is math. So all that they were doing in court today could have been resolved like that. Simple answers for me. Simple. Could have been. I was thinking, bring somebody else in who can answer this stuff quickly and move on. Move on. That's why I put in the title, classes in session. We went over this before. Remember, before I did an analysis on the extraction that was conducted by the gentleman from the hard drive that came from Rosemont, I wanted to explain some things so people wouldn't be lost along the way. Okay, simple, simple, simple. All we have to do, all you have to do, and I'm saying we, is refresh. Okay, refresh. Many of you all could have went in court and been like, well, that is this is that, and that is that, without having a degree in this field or a certification in this field, because class is in session and we believe in being informative, right? We do things for real that can help us in real life for real. Okay, so we can know what we're talking about should we come across this issue or someone we know, we can know what to say for real. Okay, and it is really unfortunate that the court time was being wasted today. For me, it was a waste of time with them going back and forth over things that were so simple, from my perspective, to answer. Simple, real simple. Oh, Letha, I'm not eating anything, but if you were talking to me, but what I was eating was not popcorn. Before I came back on live, I was in the background eating some chili. Some chili, that's what I was in the background eating. And yes, mix my black beans in there and my pinto beans together and ground beef and, you know, my other seasonings, bell pepper, onion, garlic, celery. Okay, let me get back focused. Class is in session. So I wanted to go over that and take us back to the video now and let you hear that. I want to get past him to some of his explanation that he's going to give. Okay, here we go. Right here.
In showing frames 476 to 500 in the BG of the scene video, correct?
I did.
And 476 to 500 is how many frames per second?
Well, depending on the video that they were showing, my understanding, my recollection is correct, is they had told us that it was 30 frames per second.
Okay. And at 30 frames per second, that would have been less than a half second of actual action that are broken down into stills, correct?
Again, the numbers being 476, is that correct?
476 to 500.
Right, so that would be 24 frames at 30 frames per second. If it was 30 frames per second, it would be approximately 3/4 of a second.
And Doctor, when one looks at video, as a depiction of an event, does that necessarily show
Why is that
what
lady
the
doing that?
actors in that video were observing?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is beyond the scope of the court's order.
This is the video that,
The short answer is it's impossible for it to do that. Describing it to you the best way that I can. Imagine, well, you were just doing it. All of you were looking at a video screen, a depiction. It's a known focal length from you, yet you can see from maybe, if I go halfway between the jury, about 12 feet, and that stays constant. And then you look from that distance all the way out to 50 yards. Everything in that frame is at the same exact moment of clarity. But your eyes can't do that. The other thing is you're looking at two actors in this case, maybe 5 or 10 actors that you were looking at, depending on what each one of you chose to look at. So the video can't tell you what each one of you were looking at, and it can't tell you what either actor in there was looking at, attending to, nor perceiving. Putting that in its context, though, video has absolute benefit to an analyst to help us understand what was objectively occurring, and that's the way that we use it, and that's, in my argument, the way it should be used. But it also has potential limitations, and I think you actually heard Senior Examiner Armstrong speak to some of those limitations. Camera movement, movement of people, lighting. So for example, we can brighten it up a little bit or clarify it. You can't do that with your eyes. So the short answer is video has great value, but it is not the experience or the perception of the people involved in the event. It can't be.
what is the difference? I mean, video is two-dimensional
Yes, sir?
and reality is three-dimensional?
At a minimum.
Okay. And
Objection.
how does that not translate, if you can opine on that?
Absolutely. So for the members of the jury, if you were to just take and pick
It
a
depends
point
on what
that's maybe
type of
about 6
tool
feet
you're
in front of
using.
you, maybe on
If
that
you're using a
reporter's
three-dimensional
desk,
tool to view,
and you're also to
the
pick a
data,
point over here, and
then
look
it's
at
going
it.
to be
I
three-dimensional.
want you to have both of those points in perfect clarity at the same time. Now what I want you to do is, I'm holding up my glasses, so I've already told you what it is, but I want everybody to sort of look at the same point you picked on Madam Court Reporter's desk, and then while you're completely focusing on that, tell me when my glasses drop. We can see that in the video. We have the luxury of hindsight. We have the luxury of going back and taking a single frame. Think about this, 30 frames per second. The blink of an eye is approximately a third of a second.
It's how many still shots?
In the blink of an eye,
We know this over here.
3
30
frames
frames
have
per
gone
second
by.
is how many still shots?
and we will sit here and examine a frame for
30.
moments, minutes, who knows how
Every
long an examiner
second.
looks at
If
it.
it was 60,
That's not wrong.
it's
We should
60
be doing
still
that. That's
shots
due diligence.
that you can
But
print
we
out.
also have to remember
and
what
analyze.
was the limitation of the actors involved. What were they looking at? What could they have even have seen? What were they attending to? What was happening to them? This goes back to the area of sense making that you heard the counsel speak to. And then more importantly, when we get done with it, we bring it back up to normal speed and say that's the best it could get, regardless of all the slow motion we do to it, enhancing of video levels, clarification, light, all those types of things.
Lastly, Doctor, the shots in event one took less than 1 second, approximately 3/4 of a second.
Approximately 3/4 of a second.
And the events, event number two, the 4 shots in event number two took a total of 2.93 seconds, correct?
That's incorrect. They took a total of 5.468.
I apologize.
2.933 was the time between the third and the fourth shot.
So the total between the two events of shooting is less than 7 seconds.
Are you asking if you were to put both those two figures together?
Yes,
Yeah, it's about 6.5 seconds.
I have nothing further.
Cross-examine? Well, wait a minute. We need a break? No? Okay, let's go.
See, this right here should have been explained
Do you want this off screen, Counsel?
better? Because
No, you can leave
if
it.
the
That's
jurors
fine.
Yes.
don't have a background,
You indicated earlier that your law enforcement experience is in the state of Oregon, is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
You have never worked as a law enforcement officer in the state of Wisconsin?
No, I'm not.
And you were retained by the defense to provide expert opinions in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you are being compensated for that?
Yes, sir.
What is your hourly rate?
It varies somewhere between, for certain tasks, $160 an hour, and other tasks up to $480 an hour.
And for your testimony here right now, are you billing at a rate of $480 an hour?
No, sir, I'm billing at a rate of $320 an hour.
$320 an hour to be
Yep.
here in court to
Yes, sir.
testify? You indicated that when you timed the gap in time between what we are referring to as the Zeminski shot, that's the first gunshot, in the incident between the defendant and Joseph Rosenbaum. You're familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir, I am.
The time between that and the defendant's first shot at Joseph Rosenbaum, you timed that at, I believe you said, about 2 3/4 seconds. Is that correct?
And I can bring it up exactly if you want.
Yeah, could you
Is that
please?
helpful? So here you can see the first shot over here where my cursor is moving at 24.61, and then the first shot here at 27.25. So obviously if you go out to the hundredths, you see it down here where my cursor is moving, and I can take a look at my notes, but it would be the time between those two. So again, approximately 2 3/4, thereabouts.
those are sound waves.
And
So right now you're dealing with
you have
Sound.
also broken down the gap in time between the defendant's fourth shot to Joseph Rosenbaum and the time in which that first person comes up behind him and swings at his head. Do you understand those two events that I'm describing? If it's helpful, your observation, so on the list of observations you have, observation 11 is shot number 4 to Joseph Rosenbaum. Do you see that?
Right, so if I understand correctly, we're asking for the time between 11 and 15?
Yes.
Okay.
and he's gotten paid close to $10,000 so far for this. And I'm not trying to be funny because
I'm glad you're doing the math for me,
This
by the
is-
way. 'Cause I'm not
I'm
good.
about to bring my calculator up in front of the screen for you guys. But putting that aside, 1.837.
and what the defense was attempting to do was have him synchronize the sound and audio with the video footage as the event occurred. From some of the evidence.
So rough math again, about 1 minute 48 seconds, thereabouts.
So it takes approximately 1 minute and 48 seconds between the time that the defendant shoots Joseph Rosenbaum the fourth time and the time that the first person on the street makes, shall we say, physical contact with Mr. Rittenhouse?
And I apologize, I was doing the time between number 14. So the time between, and just to make sure we're correct, 15 is the observation you're referring to, correct?
Yes.
And the time between observation 11.
Yes. If it's helpful, Doctor, I'm doing rough math in my head. It appears to be roughly 59 seconds, about a minute.
48,
Does that sound about right?
48, 49, 50, 57.
So about a minute passes between.
No. And they lost their signal. This is not me, this was them.
Using to give us the data that's generated by that software. There's a separate report you can generate as part of that. Is that fair to say?
For part of it, what's referred to as a workflow report. So basically, the actions that I took upon a piece of video, the workflow, whether it's enlargement or these type of things, those can be generated.
And do you have the ability to generate that here today if you wanted to?
It would take a little bit of time. I can generate it. I wouldn't say that I could generate it today. I'd probably have to do it during the evening, but I can get them generated.
Okay, and that would show us the work that you've done to modify, edit, or do anything to the videos that we're showing in this, in what you've testified to so far, correct?
Yes, between the notes, as in if I write down a parent
If you're
file,
modifying, then you are moving
this
over
was
into tampering.
changed from 30 frames per second to 7.5, using nearest neighbor with a crop like this, I'd be able to do that.
If you're editing, you can also
And,
be moving over and into tampering.
You indicated earlier that you're being paid hourly for this. How much in total so far have you billed the defense for the work you've done in this case?
Estimated at probably a little over $9,000.
Your Honor, we asked earlier for some data that he can generate for us. I'd like to see that before I finish my examination of this witness.
No objection.
So at this point, I'll pause.
Okay, well,
We could put on a different witness while that's happening.
that'd be great.
Is that acceptable?
Yes, thank you.
I need to start reappearing in court. Build them over $9,000 for that. Okay, it is his time, but the tools are doing the work. The programmer then already wrote the code from the software for the software.
Yes.
What? And he did not do a good job. Well, I'm not going to say he wasn't clear enough explaining for me. It would, if you are dealing with a juror who is a novice, then you have to break this thing, you have to break it down to them. Like I would have just simply said, okay, we're talking about math. All right, this is math. And you give example, like this is this and that is that. This is math. Math is always solvable. If you had addition and subtraction, if you had da 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 da, okay, when it comes to these tools, X, Y, Z, and this explanation here, when I'm talking about a sound wave, the equation for a sound wave is this and that. This is this and that. Now, is that presenting clarity to you? Is it a little bit more clear as opposed to saying, okay, frames per second. Okay, it's been broken down. All right, frames per second in the data capture. Frames per second. How many seconds are being captured? How many frames per second are being captured? Well, if it's 30 frames per second being captured, that's 30 still shots. If it's 60, it's 60 still shots on a printout. But the going back and forth over the forensic tools, again, could have been resolved easily. Could have been an easy resolve because they're going to get to going back and forth. Let me get to the next gentleman that they had come back. And not the one witness that took the stand and was out of pocket and full of some stuff as he took the stand there. From my perspective, and yeah, I said it. I don't want to see sugar britches. Okay, I'm gonna call him witness sugar britches. I'm not getting ready to play witness sugar britches because I don't want to see witness sugar britches testify again. Let's get right back off to the forensics classes in session. Uh-oh, let me speed this up to where we need to be. Apologies. But while I'm right here, before we go back in the video footage, let's hit, and it's not that, we looked at this graph and we looked at distortion here let's go back here. Remember when we did this? And the red boxes represent tampering. The pattern is off. Now you're dealing with cubes, what they will be talking about. Okay, and they're going to get into that. Well, when you do a printout, if the forensic imaging expert had tampered with something, it would show when you print the graphs and the charts out. It would be an abnormal pattern. The pattern would be abnormal. You will be able to see patterns that are abnormal, but they are getting ready to drill him over enhancing the image in pixels, which are points, and resolution and things like that, when really it's a mathematical equation that's being used that you can solve for. The equation is not going to change if you're dealing with that image. If you're dealing with images, well, then it is what it is. If you're dealing with something else, then it is what it is. But it's always going to be science and math. You're always going to go back to the math. You can solve for it. You can prove it. It will show up in the printouts. So remember when we did that? And what? No, not her. Okay. So it's some, okay, I see, I got it up in the background. Some more examples I have up in the background, but let's listen to him because it got, and I'm thinking classes and section. You could, so right here. Pull it up to right here. So like I said, I'm gonna pass witness sugar bridges and go right into.
That may lead to them objecting to the evidence coming in.
Okay.
So Attorney Trofsky suggested maybe we I guess, ordeer the witness ahead of time, just see if there's any issues, so that if there is an issue that arises, it won't be 5 minutes after the jury comes in. Because I expect this to be a very brief witness.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Excellent.
All right.
Then the jury would be brought once.
With the voir dire, then the jury come down, and then
I rest.
Then you rest. Then the state will do its rebuttal, and
I would move the two exhibits into evidence in the presence of the jury and then arrest.
correctamundo.
I'm just going to set this up if that's okay, Judge.
Yep.
Now this is the forensic imaging expert that they had come in. He just does what he does. He's not his depth of training is not like mine, where if I wanted to, I can go down any avenue. I can strictly stick to computer forensics. I could do cell phone forensics. I could do network forensics, infrastructure forensics, which deal with networks. I can go into different avenues. I could also do audio forensics if I wanted to. I could specialize in imaging and stick with straight images if I wanted to. But I much rather stay under the broader term digital forensics. We'll deal with all.
So, Mr. Armstrong, you had provided
I'm gonna need him to stop breathing in that microphone like that.
kind of the
What was that?
I don't want to say the note, but the work that you had
And
done,
you get in the mic.
in terms of the images that you had
This is
blown up.
attorney
in his request. Is that, I know it's a rough way to say it, but is that fair?
Pooply Pooply Pond.
Okay. And I don't know if you have the report with you, but if you do, could you just turn to page 7?
He don't know what he's talking about. Disclaimer. This attorney right here who's asking the question should have set his behind down and had somebody else ask the questions he getting ready to ask. This probably worked with the jurors, but if this worked with them, they don't understand.
Yeah, the ones that you had done in reference to the latest, I think, 8
This
photos
wouldn't have
that were
worked on
asked
us.
to be-
We know better. That's why class is in the title. Class is in session.
You said page 7, sir?
Yes, sir.
This right here took too long for me. The first one took too long for me. This one took too long for me.
Okay.
Okay, so, on the top of that page, it says chain, is that fair?
That is fair, yes.
And then, as we move down, there's a portion or a headline or a title in bold that says interpolation, right? See that?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Let me see what you got.
That's what I have. Page 6. Oops. Page 7. Oh,
Maybe this
Sorry.
helps. I'm
Yeah.
asking that does the R20,
2992, yes, that
does that
helps.
help? Okay.
And let him pick
Hold
up
on,
his
please.
cell phone. Get your cell phone off the floor because it fell. Come on, attorney. Poo 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 suit. And again, attorney poo 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 poo. This is one of those times where call me in as the expert and I'm going to get up off that stand real quick and get the juror some comprehension and understanding real quick and get on up out of here.
I'm sorry, I need to see, may I see what you're referring to again?
Because attorney poo 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 was sitting there talking about pixels and enhancement as if he trying to make it seem like he tampered with or altered some type of data. No, the math is the math. The equations are the equations.
Yes, that'd be great.
I would have gave him an equation and
Thank you.
said, you want to know what's what? Solve this and you'll have your answer. Solve for this equation right here. And then you get your answer. You want another answer? Here's another equation. When it comes to the red, blue, green, print out how much red is used, how much blue is used, how much green is used in the scale, on the scale in these printouts, and solve this
Sorry,
equation, and you'll get the other answer for that.
So
Probability statistics is math.
in bold,
This is math.
right?
This is
Yes,
And then next to that it says bicubic.
that's correct.
Okay, and what is that?
Hey, Gina.
Means that
Hey!
the interpolation algorithm that was selected was bicubic.
Are there other interpolation methods that you could use?
There is, yes.
And what are some of those?
For example, nearest neighbor is one. Bicubic, bilinear.
And can I just ask you to do this so we understand this? The photo that you enlarged at the state's request, how much, is it pixels that you expand? What do you do to make it bigger?
Math.
It's based off of the enlargement is the interpolation that is used. So with regards to this, this references a video that was
It's math.
interpolated and outputted. Are you speaking to, I'm sorry, are you speaking to the photo?
Yeah, speaking to photo, What numbers?
It's a mathematical equation that was used.
So
It's an
this
equation
is,
that was used.
been marked as states 155. I'm going to add specifically about that one.
Okay.
Okay. So you have taken a still of a video and you have zoomed in on it, for lack of a better term.
He didn't
I
zoom.
would not say zoom. I would
He
say
enlarged
it's
it.
been enlarged.
Okay. And how do you do that?
We use a algorithm, bicubic algorithm, for that. For this particular, are you referring to both images or just one?
They're both the same, right?
This one was used with a smart resize algorithm, and then this one is used with bicubic.
I'm sorry, you said this one was smart size?
Smart resize.
And what is that?
That is a algorithm that is part of the AMP5 software that resizes that image.
The better answer,
So, I don't know if this is.
let me pause real quick, because the answer he should have given was, and like he said, he doesn't know all of the rest of that. He just know he was a photographer. He know images, photos, how to use the software. Fine. But the answer I would have gave using a forensic software tool that's based on math, science and math, because you do know we're dealing with science and math. The programmers in their coding, if this, then that. If this comes in, then the results are this or do that. If then, programming language. Anybody took coding? Anybody had to take coding? C, C#, C+ coding? If then, anybody had any other type of coding? Programming language. If then, and then that. If this happens, then that. If this, then that. It's math. Remember compression, decompression? And we looked at the formula for discrete coincide, that mathematical equation for images that are processed pictures. They start off pictures and then they become images once they are being processed, getting ready for the process that they go through to travel across the internet. Compression, then decompression. That's math. The answer to his question is no, he did not change the integrity of the data, and mathematical equations and formulas are utilized. And best practices in this digital forensic fields allows for enhancements that are admissible in the court of law. Parameters are already set within these digital forensic tools. But they're gonna take all day on this. But I'm gonna let attorney Poom Poom from the Poom Poom Pootie suit finish asking his questions. But we over here, we know this.
For the court, but in my, tell me this is right. Can you just turn and take a peek for a second? Okay, so when you are,
It doesn't matter, Amp.
large,
It doesn't matter which software
you
you're
are-
using. It's when you're using digital forensic
Are you
software, it's
adding
all dealing with math.
pixels,
All of them.
Yes, I am adding pixels.
okay?
Open
And
source,
so
free,
Let me tell
certified,
me this is
it's all
bicubic
math.
and interpolation, okay? And I know this will be rudimentary, but forgive me. So if these are pixels,
That's not a pixel. That's not representing a point.
ours is
Pixels
in
represent
red,
points.
okay?
That's not a point.
And these are red. and these are pixels, and these are blue. When you enlarge an image, what does the bicubic algorithm do to these pixels?
The bicubic algorithm is taking those pixels and resampling, or I'm sorry, is basically
Duplicating.
duplicating
Making-
those pixels into another area. Beyond that, I cannot say.
Do you know, based on your training and experience, what color the bicubic algorithm makes these pixels?
I do not know.
Do you know if we know this is a red pixel, and we know this is a blue pixel, and those are real colors, will it combine these two pixel colors to actually change the color of the image? You know what I'm saying?
I can't speak to that.
So you can't.
I want to be clear.
Sure.
Listen, the unassigned ones that you have in the middle,
Yeah.
those are the added ones?
Yes.
Okay.
So the added pixels.
No,
and
no,
what- to be
sir.
fair,
No.
In terms of what we're looking for.
This is the
to
part
ensure
that had me
the
perplexed.
color's correct.
You don't know what you're talking about.
That we're not
But go on.
distorting the color of the thing we're looking at. It's adding pixels, and my concern, or my question for you is it adding the correct color of the original image?
That goes beyond into the algorithm of the program that I do not have that information for.
Okay, so if I can ask you this. These two photographs that you have enlarged, okay, so you've added pixels to those, right?
Correct.
Okay. And are you able to tell the court the colors that were there originally are actually the same colors when I expand or enlarge the photograph with the added pixels? Are you able to say that?
I'm not able to say that, no.
So tell me if I'm right. So the things that the court would be looking at here, and the colors that the court would be looking at, you can't tell the court that in fact that's the color from the original picture, correct?
It comes down to the programming, the algorithm, I cannot say.
It comes down to
Maybe say 1 second.
doing the charts and the graphs and printing them out. It comes down to, see, this is the type of stuff that made me angry. And see, he's happy. He's laughing right here. But no, sir, you looking real stupid to the engineering, the science, and the technology community. So I would have shut this down. Excuse me. Math is solvable. Do you want to see the equation for that? Well, let's look at the digital forensic tool I use, and let's look at the type of mathematical equations that are used within that software program, and you can get your answer. If you want to know how much red, blue, green is going to be utilized, guess what? The old-fashioned way was to calculate that stuff out by hand. That's why I would have wrote him an equation to say, when you solve for this, you'll get you'll know percentage-wise and any other answer you want, how much blue, gray, and whatever else is being utilized. However, it does not change the integrity of the data because it will fall within the perimeter. These digital forensic tools are already set for you not to veer outside of the scope of moving over into the tampering phase. If that makes sense to anybody. It's already set. The equations are already factored in. If this happens, then do that. It goes back to the programming. If then, we're talking about math here. And then he comes back and he smiles like, I got him, because he can't answer the question. And that's outside of the scope of what he does. I wish I would have been on that stand, or anybody else for that matter, who is a mathematician or engineer. or a computer science head. So they could have broke it down for him so he can understand why he comes back and he's smiling like, oh, we're going to get him for tampering with evidence. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because F5, the digital forensic software tool that he used, they're going to stand behind their software program. It is a software program that is utilized in the field of forensics. Just like Input Ace. The other one earlier, that's what he used. They do the same dang on thing. They do the same thing. Do the same thing, just different software programs. Yeah. One program may have more options than the others. But in terms of utilizing a forensic software tool, and this is why when I was doing the Kanika Jenkins things, and you go back to the old videos, I would use at least 3 different software tools when I started doing a metadata extraction or started extracting information about information. Yeah, taking a closer look at what's underneath the hood, so to speak, or a detailed look at the information about the information. Like you see a frame, but you don't see the frame size in the user interface that we're utilizing. You see a frame or you see a PowerPoint chart. Now, we wanted the size of the PowerPoint chart. That would be considered metadata, information about information. We would do a extraction to get that information. So he came back smiling, a little bit too giddy for me. So math, right? We know we are utilizing what? Math. This is math. Let's go back to this chart. Okay. Discrete coenzyme transformation, coefficient distribution. So if he was tampering, the original line that shows that the image has not been tampered with are the lines in the blue. Now, the red lines on the graph shows that the image has been tampered with. You will see the distortion, you will see the abnormalities when you go to print out other charts and graphs from different perspectives, however you want to view it. Hex view, whatever view you want that's available within the tool that you're utilizing. If you're tampering with evidence, it's going to leave a digital fingerprint. It is going to show up. Okay, this is math. You're going to try, let me put it this way. You're going to go in there and let me use an example. 2 + 2 = 4, right? You're going to go in there and it should be 2 + 2 = 4, but you're going to get something like a 2 + 2 = 3. That's off. That's false. That's the wrong answer. That's incorrect. And if you were to print that out and it gave you the answer to the math problem, and in the printout, you get to mark yes for correct answer, no for wrong answer. Print out, the answer will be marked no, because that's not correct. So when the software utilizing equations, the math is already set on the inside. Things are already set. Perimeters are already set up inside the software, digital forensic tools. And if there's tampering that takes place, because it uses artificial intelligence and AI and deep machine learning looks for patterns. Artificial intelligence, it can go in, it can read, it's going to calculate, it's going to analyze, and it's going to come out and print out charts and graphs to show you that the patterns are off or abnormal. It breaks the flow. Okay, so all this, he comes back and he's happy. Well, you know, and you know, that gentleman, like he said, this is not the extent of what he does. And I would have had my flip itself would have said, excuse me, are you talking about in a volatile state or a non-volatile state? What are you talking about? And by the way, since we're talking algorithms, what electronic device are we using here again? Do you want to know what type of electronic device that I utilize, as well as the temperature in the room? Because all of that matters, because data is extremely fragile. So where do you want to go? Because we can go, okay? We can go there. Again, and he did a little said, he did his little boxes and said, these represent pixels. And I said, pixels are points. A pixel is a point. Bunch of points. If you get pixels, you get a bunch of points. And they begin to formulate patterns. So let's look at this. The red box represents tampering. Okay, if we were to print out green, the green white is the original flow of the way the pattern should be. No abnormalities. When you get to the red ones, the pattern is off. You can tell the image or the video or etc. have been tampered with. Breaks the flow of the pattern. All of this is available in printouts. Okay. This deals with math. All right. So he's a little bit too happy, a little bit too giddy for me. And he think he has a one up, and he think that he's trying to present it to the jurors as if he's going to get this information tossed out because this man came in and he tampered with when he enhanced this image because he said he added pixels. Well, they were dealing with resolution. If you want a higher resolution on an image, it's going to utilize more pixels. That's just in the sphere of technology, common sense. In the science field, the field of digital forensics and engineering, that's just common sense. Class is in session. Does everybody understand that? We understand this over here. And you said they would have fought to keep me off the jury. Everybody over here should know a little bit of something about this. Right, Amp. Make it more complicated than what it is. I mean, and let's finish listening to him. Let's finish listening to him, but I'm not done. I said classes in session. I got more examples already pulled up in the background, but let's finish. Let's finish because he's talking about data integrity. And I wish they would call it what it is. Now, the judge alluded to it and they kind of talked around it. The integrity of the data is what you're talking about. If you want to know if I fell within the scope of best practices, because I would have broke him down. If you wanting to know if best practices were utilized, yes, they were. If you wanting to know what the certified software tools that can be utilized in the United States of America are, here they are. And this is one of them. Now, are you talking about the process? Do you want different printouts? Okay. Do you want more information about data authentication? The authentication of the data, right? 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 Bit by bit copy from the original source that captured the data? Is that what you're talking about? Do you want bit by bit copy? And a chain of custodies verifying that the hash values match bit per bit, while whatever I'm utilizing was in its what? Volatile state. Because every time you power down your electronics device, if I powered this laptop or desktop or whatever electronic device that I'm utilizing down and I reboot or I power it back on or up, I get a different set of algorithms. So let me go back to, I would have said, yes, this is what happened in the volatile state. My operating system that I was utilizing was in its volatile state. That means it was on. Okay. And I write blocked. I used the write blocker. So as I was extracting the data, doing my extractions of the data, it was in a read mode only. Therefore, I can verify to you that no tampering with evidence has taken place because it was write blocked. I mean, he comes back smiling. Let's go on. Let's go back to him. Let's go back to the giddy one.
It comes down to the programming, the algorithm. I cannot say it.
Maybe say 1 second here.
Oh, they are so happy. And I'm thinking they are so, he's smiling and he looking so dumb.
For you, sir, could you have used another algorithm that wouldn't have changed the potential color of the pixels that you added?
There's no testimony that the color has been changed.
I didn't hear you.
There's been no testimony that the color has been changed.
It was my impression, and I beg your correction, it was my impression that in the effort to enlarge the image, that the
and that's not
individual
getting him off
is
because he shot who he shot.
inserting
But let's
some,
come on.
I'm going to call them uncharged pixels, that the algorithm
what?
is going to assign colors, which is beyond his control.
You just
Where
said
am I going wrong?
uncharged pickles, and it's pixels, Judge. And this is why I've said over here for years. I see people, authentication and data integrity is not a joke. And when you get in court, and this is why I said a few weeks ago, make sure your attorney know what they're talking about. And if they don't, you explain it to them. You explain it to them. Because the judge, he don't even have no knowledge of digital forensics. He has no knowledge. He knows about authentication and data integrity. He knows about the terms, but he doesn't know the full gamut of the scope of, because he could have shut this down himself if he really understood a long time ago. Some judges understand because they're abreast and aware, and others don't. And this one here is some foolishness. He just said pickles. Okay, he made a mistake. We all misspeak words sometimes. I do it all the time over here. And then I watch the live in a playback and I'll be like, did I say that? I said that. Let me slow it down because that's not what I meant to say. But and the transcriber just said pixels. Because she has to get everything and the record has to be accurate. And he's like, if you would have used a different algorithm, what are you talking about? If he would have used a different software program? Because if you power the electronic device down, and that's what I would have told him, if you power these laptops down, or desktops down in this courtroom and you reboot them, guess what you'll have? A different set of algorithms. So what are you talking about? Go ahead and power your electronic device down. Get a authentic copy before you power it down. Right block the system and reboot it, and then see what the hash values will be for the next set of algorithms that's going to come up, because they're not going to be the same. So let them finish. Kelly was in section and they just smiling like, oh, we got him. And I'm thinking, y'all dumb, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. You looking dumb up there. Dumb to the dumb. Uneducated and uninformed. And he can't answer. Oh, Lord have mercy, Jesus. Digital forensics is vital. This fell into being a hot mess to me today. This was a hot mess. And this should have only took no more than 45 minutes.
My question was, could he have used a different algorithm?
No, I'm not, you're past me. I'm just trying to understand if I've got the basic concept down.
Hey, boss.
Yeah, my understanding was it was beyond his scope of his expertise.
I
Per se, the
No, I'm back, way back.
Oh. All right.
I'm still using watercolors. He is enlarging, he wants to enlarge the image. And he's inserting some pixels in there. And so he gives it a command to insert the pixels. And he doesn't know what color they're going to come up. Is that it? Is that it, sir?
I would say, Your Honor, it's as to how that algorithm interpolates those pixels and where it places them goes outside the scope of my knowledge.
Well, what do you, I mean no disrespect, what do you know?
What I do know is that the process that I use to expand or enlarge this image and the interpolation method that was used. Anything beyond that within my software, with the software I use, I do not have any additional information.
And competing programs might insert different colors.
It's possible.
And you wouldn't have any.
Yeah, we have a way of knowing.
I do not have any way to know if those different interpolation methods would issue different colors to different pixels.
Now, what were you telling me?
What I had asked him was, I wasn't telling you anything. I asked a question that was objected to, which was there another method that could have been used? Which, and I think the wording that I had said was, wouldn't have changed.
Okay,
colors,
let me tell him the other method that could have been utilized. The mathematical equation, and you working it out by hand, and it would have took your behind probably the next couple of weeks to figure out the answer. If you, sir, attorney poom in a pulley suit, would have had to work out that equation. That's how you could have worked that out, because this is math. Again, when you are dealing in the realm of digital forensics and forensic science, it is science and it is math. At the end of the day, you can always solve when you're dealing with those long equations. It's solvable. So he could work it out by hand and see how much blue, green, and other color, if in gray area, he may get if he wants to. Yes, there's another way you could use it. The question should have been, is it another tool? And that's what the judge was getting at. Is it another software? Well, is it, and he, like I said, he old, and this ain't his thing. He ain't kept up. another digital forensic software tool that could have been utilized, and you would have gotten the same exact answer, printouts, charts, and graphs, as well as interpretation, if you utilize, in case, if I utilize AMP5, if I utilize input ACE, if I utilize autopsy, and I am conducting the exact same metadata extraction, looking for the exact same information, it is going to be the same across the board. Those are all digital forensic tools that do the same things. Some, again, may have greater options or more options than others. However, at the end of the day, they basically do the same thing. If I'm doing a certain extraction and I want this type of extraction done, and I want this printout done, if tampering took place, it's going to show up. The digital fingerprint is going to be there. I don't care what tool, which tool that I choose to use for my enhancement. You can always solve for the equation, no matter what steps you utilize in the mathematical equation to get to the answer. If you are solving correctly, the steps that you utilize to get to the answer at the end of the day in the mathematical equation, the answer is going to be the same. You either got the correct answer or you don't. And if you don't have the correct answer, and you've been tampering around with the answer, altering the answer, modifying and doing anything off, it's going to show up. The digital fingerprint will be left, and it will lead back to that person. So again, they're happy, they're giddy, but I was sitting up there like, this could have been resolved with the first doctor on the defense team that took the stand. He could have resolved all of this. He could say, okay, and then he did allude to it. Okay, using in case enterprise. Okay, he using method. Okay, I did this extraction. He did this. Okay, now if we were to sit down and do the same thing, the same type of extractions, the answer is going to be the same. The equation is not changing. The equation is set. That's given. The equation for solving this math problem is not going to change. So the answer, no matter what tools utilized, is going to be the same because the equations are the same. Okay, now we want to look at it from different perspectives and views. Well, then we choose those other options when we're utilizing those digital forensic tools. But math is solvable. Digital forensics is both science and math. And right now, what they're talking about, even when they're talking about these forensic images being enhanced, science and math. And he wants to know about the blue, the green, how much of this and that. Well, guess what, sir? It's an equation for that, and it's quite a long one. And if you want to sit down and work that equation out by hand, you just go ahead and do that. And the jury is hearing all of this, and hopefully, somebody there in the juror got some type of sense enough to know that that this was a waste of time. That he trying to, like I use a I got you moment. And there is none. So here we go.
If I'm during the objection.
And what was the objection?
The objection, there's not testimony that any colors were changed.
Right, yeah.
How would he know?
He may or may not, but the way he asked it is assuming that colors changed.
I'm happy to rephrase it.
Go ahead.
Is there another interpolation type of program that you're aware of that when pixels are expanded,
Digital
Wouldn't-
forensic tool.
would keep the color constant through the expansion?
I cannot speak to that.
Would you agree the more pixels that you add, the more interpolation happens?
Yes.
So the question that I have and that the argument is when you expand the photograph, you're adding pixels, but you can't tell the court what color is being added, if any.
I cannot speak to that. No, that comes down to the programming the algorithm on the software.
So the original still has colors and pixels. It's expanded, those pixels expand. The question is, do the colors stay constant?
I do not know.
The equation stays constant.
Judge, that's all I have.
You're talking about, you know, enhancing resolution. How much red, blue, and green are you going to get?
Mr. Armstrong, is the software you use similar to the Input ACE software?
It's similar.
Yeah.
So the same algorithms and methods, as far as you know, are also in that software?
It's both softwares are made by two different manufacturers. I can't comment on whether they're the same.
They basically do the
So-
same thing.
When you enlarge these
Period.
images, are you changing any details?
I'm not changing any details.
What are you doing?
We are simply just adding pixels to make the image larger.
Because when you're looking at a smaller image on the screen, let's say it's 20 by 30 pixels. In order to enlarge that, there need to be more than 20 or 20 by 30 pixels.
He should have broke them down. Let me give another example. Coenzyme transformation. Discrete coenzyme transformation. Okay? Remember, we went over that here, dealing with picture transformed to an image once it is transmitted across the internet. Okay, remember that? Discrete coenzyme transformation, the process that a picture being transformed into an image goes through as it gets ready to travel across the internet. The process that it goes through. You're dealing with what? Decompression, right? Needs to be compressed first so it doesn't utilize so much bandwidth, because bandwidth is also given in the equation. You can purchase more, you know, but for optimization, okay, for more efficiency, we can't have large data sets traveling across the network. It would utilize too much bandwidth. We already know that. Okay. Everybody remember dial up, and then the call, you know, your packages or your data that you were trying to access across the internet, you didn't receive it, or whatever you were trying to send when everybody was trying to send email pictures and the person didn't get it or receive it. Well, we didn't have enough bandwidth. Okay, that means you didn't have enough bandwidth. Well, now we have what? We're utilizing more bandwidth, right? We're dealing with different types of medium cabling, right? We got fiber, okay? Fiber optic cable versus coaxial cables versus phone lines, old Bill soft phone lines, okay? We're dealing with greater technology, more advanced technology that can handle more and larger data sets. However, it's still in doing that, compression happens. The images have to be compressed, traveling across, and then they get decompressed. Okay, as it's traveling across network, compression, decompression. However, when the image is compressed, can we say that it is losing data integrity or quality as it's traveling itself across the network? Before it is back into a readable or viewable form in terms of it being an image versus the process that it goes through as it's traveling across. And we're able to see a flower again, or a picture of a person again, or a picture of a shoe or whatever. See, enhancing, he's trying to say, oh, because the resolution, and that's what he did, he enhanced the image, okay? Enlarged it, made it larger, where you're going to use more pixels, okay? More pixels, more points for a certain type of resolution is going to be utilized. That's understandable. It doesn't change the integrity of the data unless you go outside of the perimeters that have been set. However, when you're utilizing these digital forensic tools, if this happens, then that has already been programmed. Now, if you're dealing with a program that has viruses, worms, root, or whatever, then that will jeopardize the integrity of your data. Okay, that can jeopardize the integrity of your data. If you're dealing with software with a life cycle on the software has expired and it's no longer being updated, that can jeopardize the integrity of the data. However, we're not talking about any of that here. We're simply talking about him making an image larger. And that image utilizing more pixels, and the defense coming in saying, well, it lacks data integrity, this is tampering. All they had to simply do was print out the charts, print them out, print all of them out, print out the histogram, print out pixel perspective, print it out from all different angles. Let's go. Let's go. Didn't show the chain of custody, but he brought the chain of custody to court. From my understanding, authentication to say, listen, I right block the system, so I cannot make any edits. I cannot alter and I cannot tamper. The system is right blocked. Ain't no tampering going on, because when you're in a right block mode, you can only read. That's a read-only mode. You can't write to a system. You can do no writing. That means you can't do any alter or editing. That's why I always talk about right blocking. You can only read. You can't write. You can't write anything. You can only read. It's in read mode only. And you are just simply retrieving the evidence, collecting it. It's in a read mode only. That's what right blocking is. So again, let me go back to his aha, gotcha. Yes, AMP. Banking on their ignorance and using this haha. And I'm sitting up here like, this is crazy. This is stupid. This is stupid. I know I would have sent a note to the judge and broke this down a long time ago. And said, don't waste no more of my time with this, but let's finish listening.
Also would say the same size.
That is correct.
So you didn't witness this, but the defense expert was zooming in on video with his Input ACE software. Would that also be adding pixels because it was enlarging it?
It's irrelevant for purposes of what his testimony would be.
I'm trying to let the court understand. I mean,
I beg pardon?
I'm trying to get an understanding of how this works versus.
Oh, go
what we
ahead.
saw. You may answer if you can.
I do not know as to input ACE and how their interpolation for, if any, is seen by zooming in on there.
So when you talk about adding pixels,
They're
the only way to
compatible.
enlarge an image is to add pixels.
Correct.
Now, you don't go in and say, put in black pixels, put in blue pixels, or anything like that.
That is
No, you
correct,
don't.
I do not.
The software program
Software.
does that.
That is correct.
Reads and
it has to do that
calculates.
to actually make an image
That's what
larger.
artificial
That's correct.
intelligence
Now-
does for you.
Is this, the defense expert called AMP5 the gold standard of video editing. Is it one of the best programs out there?
It is a program that we use at the lab, yes.
That's not
Now,
at the top though.
Is it an accepted program? I'm sorry?
You asked him who was the best one.
That ain't the
and he
gold
responded,
standard.
That's what we use at the lab. That's not the same thing. Or it doesn't, it doesn't establish that it is in fact the best.
No, it don't.
I understand.
But the
I can tell you, not everything the state supplies is top notch. And I'm not talking about.
let me pause right
Judges,
there
by the way.
because the doctor who came in earlier that got paid over $9,000 to come into court, and he's sitting right there. It's him. He said it's the gold standard. Wait a minute, sir. Hold on. And like I said, in case Enterprise is going to be up there. Ace is up there in the top 5, but it's not at the top. It's not at the top. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. See, he's not just going to be coming up in court and perpetrating like that. And by the way, I was certified, like he is certified, using the same digital forensic tool that he came in court and utilized, or his printouts that he did. Input ACE. Yeah, you have to get certified every 2 years for some certifications. I had that certification. That was easy for me. That was an easy certification for me. So I'm not going to tout one digital forensic tool and play it up, especially not ACE, like it's better than AMP5 when they do the same, when they have the capabilities of doing the same thing, and the equations are the equations. That's not going to change. The mathematical equations for solving certain things are not going to change. If you're solving for algebra and you're using different equations, the equations are the equations that you're going to use every time when you hit that certain math problem. You're going to use that same equation to solve. You're going to have that same type of formula that you can work and solve and prove with. So no, but he's not going to come up in there talking about ACE is the gold standard. What? No, it's not. Like I said, it's in the top 5. So let's see. I know. Let's put this foolishness to rest. And also, when you're talking about, so it's some open source and some free digital forensic software tools out there that are wonderful. They do the same thing. They are, however, in the United States, we like to use certified tools over here. But it's some tools out there. They all do the same thing, but United States like to use certified digital forensic tools. They will allow you to utilize some open source and some free. However, you have to watch it when you use those tools, but they all do the same thing. And some of them tools I actually like better than the certified ones. I'm just going to be honest. But let's do our little pit stop. Let's do our little side note. Hmm. And they got autopsy at the top. Let me make sure I'm doing it for 2021 because this changes. And also in autopsy is Microsoft. As a matter of fact, I thought they had one at the top by Linux. At the top is always a Linux tool in there at the top. Always. Something that deals with a Linux operating system. And it's autopsy, which is still at the dang on top. So then it's Cain and Abel, then it's Sans Sift, then it's Validity, then it's X-Ways. See, when you get into Celebrate, then you're talking about cell phone forensics. Pro Discover still up there. And if, yeah, I like using Pro Discover. That was clean user interface. Wireshark, that's network forensics. Magnet forensics, they got them up there. They're mixing up the different tools though. Let me go to the other site. So let me do it this way. This is so funny. Let me do the share on this. So I'll do it this way, just so everybody can see. From 2021, because the tech community will go and give feedback on utilizing these tools all the time. The best computer forensic tools, and you know, let's do digital forensic tools. Okay, let's do digital as opposed to computer forensic tools, and they overlap in terms of what they can do. So autopsy, which doesn't surprise me, it's right at the top. Why he said access data, which is input ACE, they flow together. They're not at the top. Autopsy is. X-Ways, access data, that's a forensic toolkit. In-Case gonna stay at the top because that's the international forensic software tool that's used. That's international. That used to be number one because it can be utilized everywhere. Not just in the United States of America, but if you go to England, if you go to China, if you go to Russia, In-Case Enterprise. That's the digital forensic tool that gets down in every nation. That's the Knowledge International. Monday, Redline, Paradigm Suite, Bulk Extractor. So for him to tout that, like, and I know they call themselves the gold standard. Now let's look at number one digital forensic software too, for court. Okay. So let me do it this way and put it in like this. Number one, digital software 2 used for admission of ESI in court. In courts. Okay. Let's go. They just dealing with acceptability. And again, it's going to be FTK, Forensic Toolkit, In-Case Enterprise, Pro Discover, X-Wave Forensics, all of the ones that's at the top. Like I said, these tools really overlap each other in terms of what they can do. A lot of them, some of them have more options and a greater compatibility than the next one, but he talking about this is the gold standard. To me, the international tool is going to be the gold standard because you can use that in the United States and other nations. For me, that's what I would consider a gold standard. A tool that I can utilize anywhere. A digital forensic software tool that I can utilize anywhere. That's a gold standard for me. One that's acknowledged internationally. Yeah. So let's go back into this again, why they, you know, why he said that. And I'm thinking, I usually rate things by user interfaces. I like to see how the user interface is. I like to look at the different options. I like a clean user interface. You're looking at functionality. You're looking at how much of your central processing unit is used from the operating system that you're utilizing when you are running that particular tool. You're looking at everything, optimization. You look at all of that. For me, I look at all of that. And then you say, you know, you don't. Okay, let's get back off into this. Let's get back off into this. He was boosting that. This is the best one. I'm like, really? It do the same thing that the other one does. They can tout themselves as being the gold standard because they may have received some awards, but so what? Technology literally changes every second. So just because it was yesterday don't mean it's hot today. So again, like I said, this class is in session for a reason because this got foolish today. This was quite foolish. Not in terms of authentication and data integrity, but in terms of them thinking they got one up when they both utilize forensic software programs that basically do the same thing. The same things, same abilities, period. Same thing. Trying to figure out where is this going to be more?
One, and he responded, that's what we use at the lab. That's not the same thing. Or it doesn't establish that it is in fact the best.
I understand.
I can tell you, not everything the state supplies is top notch.
Is
And I'm not talking about the judges, by the way. I said not everything the state supplies is top notch.
So is this the same process as when you hit like full screen on your computer?
No.
No, you're doing extraction,
Now, this
or you're running it
M5
through
software
to every.
has an algorithm.
If you need to
speaking
enhance it, then you're running it through what you need to run
Exactly.
it through for enhance.
When you interpolate, there's an algorithm that fills in the image so that you can actually see it, so that it's magnified.
When you are dealing with looking at it from a preview, it uses its own nearest neighbor, but it does not add pixels in that preview.
So these processes you use, are these the standards used in the forensic
Yeah.
imaging that you do?
Yes.
And this is the kind of
Yeah,
software that
it's
you were trained
it's
on?
the
Yes.
yeah,
And this is an
yeah,
accepted software program
yes.
in forensic imaging.
Yes.
And these are accepted
Yeah.
procedures in forensic imaging.
Yes.
And that's all.
And
Thank you.
it's math.
So,
Come
here's
on,
my question. The photograph that we're talking about to be admitted into evidence to have people look at it.
Yes.
You can you say that image didn't add colors into pixels that weren't there original?
I cannot definitively say that because I did not write the software program.
So it's possible when you enlarge an image and add pixels that you're adding colors that weren't there in the original photograph, correct?
I do not know.
And when you said nearest neighbor, is a
He's not adding a color that was not there.
nearest neighbor, if I'm right, tell me. What color goes in here on a nearest neighbor?
It utilizes, I'm sorry, I do not know.
It depends on what you're doing with the
Would it
software
become
program.
It's possible.
And purple is nowhere on here, is it?
That is correct.
Nothing else.
Mr. Peabody, Attorney Peabody, have a seat.
In order to answer Attorney Trofsky's questions, would you have needed to written the algorithm in the software program?
I would need to, yes, and see exactly how
By
those
math,
programs are
the equation
interpolating
is
those
not going to
pixels.
change. Shucks.
Do you ever check the enlarged image against the original image and see if there are consistencies?
Yes, we can certainly compare the original to the enhanced version.
And is your work, and were these images and your work on these images peer reviewed by another forensic imaging
Authentication.
Yes,
Just say
that's
it was
correct.
authenticated.
Nothing further.
Therefore, nothing was changed. The data integrity is intact.
On that, I have a motion, but I don't have anything else to ask.
You can step down, sir.
Judge, based on his testimony, so what the state is trying to do is introduce a photograph that has been enlarged where this person, Mr. Armstrong, cannot testify that in fact colors weren't added that weren't there originally. And the photograph, I'm going to tell the court that the photograph that the state intends to offer, I believe they will be arguing, shows Mr. Rittenhouse doing something with his firearm. If it is not the same as the original and colors were added to that, that is a distortion of what in fact the original photograph was. It should not be admitted because it's not relevant if he can't testify. And
You don't
there's
even-
been no appropriate foundation that in fact it should be admitted if he can't testify that it didn't add colors. That colors that originally weren't
You know
They're
what?
still
And my
armed
rebuttal
there.
for you would be,
And I think under
it
the
was
circumstances, based
authenticated
on the
and
evidence,
the data integrity is still intact. The system was write blocked. This is the chain of custody. Bam. Here's the printout. Read it. By the way, I would also attach to him several equations and say, you want to know how much blue and green is being utilized in these programs? Here you go. Per program, here's the equation for every last one of them. Go home, work it out. Get your answer by hand. Now, and he didn't even say data integrity. And I'm thinking, get to authentication, because that's all y'all talking about, data integrity. That's what you're saying. It's either been authenticated or it hasn't. And that means you got authentic, you got a copy from the original source, a bit by bit copy. You changed nothing. It was write block. The data integrity is still intact. And by the way, we went over this the other day. Best practices. Let me pull this back up. Let me find it. You know what? I think I pulled it up another way. I don't think I worked it into my PowerPoint. I don't think I worked it in as a PowerPoint slide. When we went over best practices for images. Because science community, engineering community, the tech community set the rules for best practices, okay? When you're dealing with things like this. So, and I would have a quick rebuttal for him, but let's look at other examples, because when he was going on and on and on and on, I said, they're gonna have people running out there confused and not understanding nothing. That's why you come in and you say, no, you dealing with math. The equation is this. You can solve for this. You can prove for this, okay? When you talk about an image, you're dealing with this. When you're talking about this, you're dealing with that. Matter of fact. Let me pull something up real quick that we did on here. Where is it? If I can find it. Yeah, right here. Yeah. Okay, so let me go into this and then I'll go into some of the new information that I haven't shown over here. But don't let anybody ever tie you up in court. Get your chain of command and say, listen, it was right, system was right blocked, it's been authenticated, data integrity is intact. Whether it was enhanced within the perimeters that were already preset. We're dealing with math. Equation is not going to change. This is science and it is math. The mathematical equation, you can do the same extractions or you can do the same whatever they decide to do in any digital forensic software tool, and the answer is going to be the same across the board. Should be the same across the board. If I'm looking for digital fingerprints from a hex view or a text view, straight across the board, no matter what tool I'm using, depending on what I'm doing with that tool, same answer. Why? Same equations. Gonna be the same equation, same problem that you're solving for. No matter the steps you take to get to the answer is still gonna be the same. You know, some people are more detailed in their steps and others are not. Okay, yeah, so let me go here. This is what I want to show. All right. Present this. See, so you could imagine the should be, let me do the share on this now that I found what I want to share. Okay. So remember when this example was showed over here, discrete coenzyme transformation, okay? Still images and JPEG compression across a network, discrete coenzyme transformation, DCT process converts snapshots of real images into metrics of corresponding values. And then I gave an example. It starts off as a picture. Then compression, the compression process as it travels across the internet takes place. The discrete coenzyme process, quantization, encoding, and then the end user or the requester of the information is able to view the image. You got to compress it down. You got to compress and then it gets decompressed. Got to compress it, because if you were to send it through exactly like that, it would be utilizing too much of the bandwidth. You're creating large data sets and packets traveling across the internet, utilizing too much of the resources. Now let's go here. Input image. We showed one perspective and then we showed another perspective. Okay. And remember, I said the image is divided into non-overlapping 8x8 blocks. If the image width or size does not divide evenly into 8, the image may be cropped or pixels may be added to make the image divisible by 8. This is math. Each 8x8 block will contain 64 values. For a grayscale image, yeah, each pixel may be anywhere from 0 to 255, where 0 is pure black and 255 is pure white. He kept talking about the changing of the color, the the pixels being added. The pixel was, if more pixels was added, can you say the original color did not get tampered with? If the data integrity and what he should have been asked, the data integrity, does it remains the same? And I'm going to say, you know, this is off, that is off. And I know the creator of the software programs, all of them sitting back looking like, if they watching this, these. Like, what is it? Let me get to the equation on the Let me blow this equation up. Remember, this was our coincide discrete transformation equation. Bam. The general equation right here for a 2-dimension by N by M image. When we're talking about discrete coincide transformation, the image going across the internet, getting ready to travel across the internet, is defined by the following equation. There it is. So he's wanting the answers to the software that's being utilized, where it's going to go back to math. Okay. And the equation is going to look something like this right here, if he wants to solve for it. With the software, with the digital forensic software tools that's being utilized, all of the equations are going to look similar to this. Can be a little bit more, can be a little bit less. So this is what I would have gave him. If you want the exact answer, how much pixel, how much blue, how much green, go ahead and solve this by hand and then get back to me, okay? Because right now, the artificial intelligence on the inside of the electronic device and the software working together, communicating with each other, because the software and hardware need each other in order for us to get to what we need to get to. Software, hardware. You can have the software and not have the hardware, and then what? You just got hardware. You need software to go along with the hardware that you utilize, right? Your electronic device. So go ahead, go ahead. You can go ahead and solve this by hand. Go ahead. I much rather let the artificial intelligence do what it do. Now, did I used to love working out equations and all that, these big lofty equations and stuff years ago when I was younger? Yes. It's going to look like this. It's math. You want to talk about the pixels when it comes to the image that deals with forensics? Well, then the equations are going to look like this. Now go and solve for them, because this is math and science. Yeah, I would have gave him a nice dose of that in court today and said, now you're going to find out how much blue, green, red, and other colors were utilized for the formation of those pixels, for the resolution, for the enhancement, for a greater resolution of the image. You're going to find out today. There you go. Here are the equations for this software program. Here's the equation for that software program. Here's the equation for that software program. Go work it out. You want to know, you want to compare and contrast? Here are the equations. Go work them out. There you go. See, foolishness. Authentication. Just say simple. And all they simply had to do earlier was say, listen, system was right block. The data's been authenticated. Data integrity is there. Here's the chain of custody. Here's the printouts. That's why I said when I started off, I always wanted to use 3 different tools to show people they're using 3 different forensic tools over here. You can get the same answer every time when you are requesting different types of extractions. If I'm requesting a metadata extraction on X, Y, and Z, and I'm using all these tools, it should be consistent across every tool. The answer should never change. It's math, people. You can always solve and prove. And it's science. Class is in session. That's what I said, class is in session. Give them the equation sheet and say, go work it out. Go on, work it out. Work it out. Go ahead, work it out. Go work it out. Then get your crayons or your coloring pencils and go ahead and shade in each sections of fractions, and make sure you got the colors just exact by hand, and that you don't go over, lest we get you for tampering with evidence. If you got too much red or too much green. Again, this is math. This is math. This is science and it's math. When you're utilizing these tools, it's science and it's math. If this happens, then that. Computation, probability, statistics. Math. Does everybody understand that? I think we understand that over here. But I just wanted to show, you know, and the one guy who came in earlier was completely disingenuous to me. He could have shut that down. Not coming. I'm using Ace Input Enterprise. It's the gold standard. It's the best. Tools basically do the same thing. One tool may do something more or offer more options where you can see something in a hex view. You can see it in a text view. You can have all the different graphs to go along with it. You can look at it from the histogram perspective. You can look at it from all these other different perspectives. But at the end of the day, if I'm doing an extraction, a metadata extraction on something, and I'm utilizing one tool, and I do that same exact metadata extraction utilizing another tool, the results are going to be the same. Remember, on the one video image that I did the metadata extraction on pertaining to the Kanika Jenkins case, we looked at it from text view, hex view, the different perspectives that we can look at it from. And in the metadata extraction, what we found out is Julie Carnes had utilized Photoshop to enhance some images. The digital fingerprints from Julie Carnes showed up. Her name showed up too, as well as the electronic device she was utilizing, as well as the version of software from Adobe Photoshop that she was utilizing, as well as the time and date. That was one tool that was utilized. Then I utilized another tool. Same results. Then I utilized another tool, forensic tool. Same results. 3 different tools, same results every time. The science and its math can always solve for math. Math is solvable. Now, what happened to my? Okay. There we go. Oh, thank you, Amp. I'm the favorite educator tonight. I just like people to understand. And they would have got understanding in their courtroom. Now let's get to some other examples. All right. So we get to it again. See this handy dandy, nice old math equation. Let me make sure it's on everybody's screen. Okay. So everybody should be seeing it now. And I went right to the equation. Let's just get right to the center. Let's get right to the equation. Let's get right to the equation. And if I blow it up, if I zoom in on this at 175%, that's going to probably be too big. So I will leave it at 150. Let me stroll back up and do a little explanation here. Okay, and this is a process that we're using again, using a different forensic tool. Well, somebody else utilized a different forensic tool, and so I'm just using, you know, college/tech community's information. All right, techniques used to detect multimedia manipulation. All right, we're talking about, again, video manipulation or tampering, as well as image tampering. Okay, so okay, fake news. This manipulation technique is also responsible for digital kidnap, revenge porn, and financial fraud. Okay, let's go back up, and I want to start right here. The first neutral network, usually called the generator, tries to create new samples that are good enough to trick the second network training with a data set. And remember, we're always talking about data sets when we're talking about forensics, data sets. Know that. Containing real photos. In conclusion, the GAN can look at thousands of photos of a person and produce a new portrait that approximates those photos without being an exact copy of any one of them. And remember, we're talking about fake images versus original and authentic images versus as well as video that has been tampered with versus original video that is raw and pure. Deepfake has garnered widespread attention and has been used in digital campaigns of spreading fake news. And then you get into this manipulation technique is also responsible for revenge porn and financial fraud. Okay, techniques used to detect multimedia manipulation, when you're manipulating images and videos and other things at the same time, multimedia. Bearing in mind that the use of deepfake in the digital crimes is a growing problem, and it has a great impact on today's society. Some algorithms were developed to tackle this type of manipulation, namely difference of Gaussian, DOG, and oriented rotated brief, okay, ORB. All right, are two widely used techniques to automatically detect copy move manipulation in photos. This method was suggested by Nishike, well, however they saying their foreign names, and no disrespect to Japan or China. I just don't know how to pronounce all these names. And comprises 3 steps: corners detection with SOBI algorithm, features extraction with DOG, and ORB. The final feature, and finally features correspondence. This method combines detection techniques based on blocks and key points in a single model. And remember, this is using a different forensic tool. All right. A match is found between 2 points of interest if the distance is less than the predetermined threshold. Unmasking deepfake with DFT and ML is a method described in 20. Okay, and it's different examples throughout here. It is based on a classical frequency domain analysis with DFT, followed by a classification based on ML techniques, namely by using support vector machines. All right. The frequency characteristics of a photo are analyzed in a space defined by the frontier transformation, namely by using a spectral decomposition of the input, and I want to talk about compression, decompression, compression, decompression. That's what happens over the internet all the time. And when we do what we do with technology, it's always going on. But let me read that correctly. The frequency characteristics of a photo are analyzed in a space defined by frontier transformation, namely by using the spectral decomposition of input data, which indicates how the signal's energy is distributed over a range of frequencies. Mathematically, DFT decomposes a discrete signal into subpseudo components, subpseudo components of various frequencies ranging from consistent frequency corresponding to the image mean value up to the maximum of the admissible frequency given by a spatial resolution. The frequency domain representation of a signal carrying information about the signal's amplitude and phase at each frequency is computed as described in 1. And this is what the equation looks like. And yes, dealing with forensic, all our equations look like this. Or greater than this. All right, so now we know what they're using. Let's get down to it. All right, so photo being tested. The frame was extracted from the video in the Celeb DF version 1 data set. All right, so this is the frame that they're testing. And then you see power spectrum, you see the graph, power spectrum and spatial frequency. So what's being utilized? Still math, still science. Okay, so they're testing it out. Okay, by spatial frequencies. So you have your horizontal axis and your vertical axis and power spectrum. All right, DFCT power spectrum. This is, again, this is utilizing the tool that they have chosen to utilize to test and see whether or not the images or the frames, the images / frames from the data, from the video within that data set has been altered, edited, modified, tampered with, deleted. Photo features extraction by using discrete frontier transformation. Okay, and that's a method that applies to a deep learning and CNN approach to detect a deep fake by using DFT. Okay, the method that is being utilized. And so when he's asking, well, what's this, what's that? Are the pixels being this, are the pixels being that? Is this happening, that happening? Where you utilize different tools. You're utilizing different tools. You can utilize the different tools, but you're always going to work with equations. Okay, and the equations, the math is the math. The equations are going to be equations. You're always going to be able to solve for them, no matter how you get to the answer, no matter how you work your details out in getting to the answer, you can always solve and prove. And that's what this is. a lot of science, and a whole bunch of math. Period. Period. This is math and this is science. Input space, feature space. This is math and science. He wanted to know the answer. Simply sit yourself down and work these mathematical equations out. All you need are the correct formulas. Utilize the right equations, solve and prove. Okay, so I wanted to get to this one. All right. So I wanted to get to figure 6. Figure 6 depicts an overall procedure to extract and analyze electronic devices, namely those with storage capabilities. That's anything with a drive. All right. Anything with a hard drive. The device is plugged into a write blocker. All right. To prevent any write operations that may be done inadvertently. So this is dealing with authentication and data integrity. Write block the system so you can read only and you can't write over anything. None of the data. No manipulation, okay? Then by using a program to extract a raw image of the storage device, such as forensic toolkit, and that's access data, okay? A E01 format image file is produced. Taking the E01 file as input, the digital forensics analysis start by using adequate tools such as autopsy digital forensic tools. And they're talking about the tools that they were utilizing doing this test, or in case forensic software. And then they're saying the date that they accessed all of these on, okay? The day that they retrieved and accessed these tools on. The output produced a list of artifacts that are worth investigating and which digital evidence has to be preserved to be accepted in court. Okay. So they used autopsy, in case, FTK. Okay. And then it starts. Write block. The first little picture represents the write block, you know, the drive being write block. The extraction. So forensic toolkit used to extract, to do the extraction of the metadata. Then the forensic image, the copy of the original source being duplicated. Then the analysis, autopsy, digital forensic, in case forensic, how they conducted their analysis. Once they started utilizing the tool, then list of artifacts and evidence, which is the chain of custody for everything that you're doing along the way, as well as printout of the reports. All right, which is what they were saying, have him come back because he didn't print the reports out when he used his, or didn't bring the printout of the report when he used his AMP5 tool. So they also had him come back to court for that today and bring the printout of from the report of the results. Because the doctor said, I have 43 pages I printed out. Well, so just tell the people the tools basically do the same thing. They can basically do the same thing. It's math, it's science, it's equations. Don't come in there and make it seem like just because he enhanced the image for and the pixels, more pixels were added because of the size, that the data integrity is now not intact. Don't do that. Don't make it seem like, well, his tool is not, my tool is. No, they're both digital forensic tools that are utilized and acknowledged in the United States of America. Autopsy is a widely used digital forensic tool to analyze a raw image file previously extracted from the electronic device. It is an open source. Remember I told you about them open source tools? Remember I said I like some open source tools better than some of the certified forensic tools? Remember I said that. And has distinct and well appreciated visualization features to help criminal investigators to assertively search for the most relevant artifacts. Autopsy has the following key components. Okay, so we're just talking about utilizing different digital forensic tools, what they can do, what they do, the different printouts you get, the different perspectives that you get to see. Okay, then there's screenshots. All right, the two being utilized and what's happening. Configuration ingest modules, and going to work down to detect deep fake videos. And so you see the options here that are available in the screenshots, and then it'll generate the report. And then he goes to extension match detector. And then you're just going through the configurations. This is what you want the software program to do. Go down to this, check that, and you move on. All right. And then pre-processing, processing, results analysis, training data. Okay, data sources getting sent to a file, a folder, file folder now. A little file folder. Okay, the pre-processing phase. What's going on? Here's the video. Extract the frames, extract the features, generate the data. So you want to test the data. Here are the photos. All right, videos, photos, separate. The photos / images being separated out. Still shots. So you want to go back and print up the still shots from the videos, you can do that. They did that today in court. The first one tried to make it seem like, you know, the first guy had already, the prosecutor's witness had already explained how many frames per second he printed out. And the other one came in like, I use NK. So what? So what? So what about the digital forensic tool that you utilize? So what? You get to the same results. So what? Like here, right now, I'm giving an example of using autopsy. These are screenshots of, you know, steps that you would take if you were using autopsy to conduct a metadata extraction as well as generate a report. Okay, create SVM model, fit training data, classify test data, test the data, then you print out your results, the processing phase, the steps that you are taking along the way, the results, get MSV prediction, evaluate the results, final classification, just going through the steps. Remember, deep fake, trying to see if any tampering, altering has taken place. And then you get the results, more examples. Then results, extract content, deep fake detectors. Then you're going to get the printout type, probability of being manipulated, source file path, artifact ID, value, more examples and screenshots of the process. Then composition of data sets. All right, name. So it's naming all of the different, is it fake? Is it real? What's the percentage of it being fake, real? You get the printout now. So composition of the data set. So we just looked at that table from the extraction that was done. Composition of training and testing the data sets. Training and the testing. You're testing photos, the videos, the photos and the videos. You're training and you're testing. So this is, again, this is using the tool. All these screenshots are using the tool, the digital forensic tool autopsy, okay? Which was in the top 3. And then results analysis. Then a printout of the results. This section describes the results obtained from the experiments and the corresponding analysis. The experiments were validated by a 5-fold cross-validation approach for the data set created, described in section 5. Evaluation metrics are described in section 6.1, and the analysis of the results are presented in section 6.2. Finally, section 6.3 describes the results obtained with benchmarks of the DFT-SVM and a CNN-based model. Evaluation of metrics. The metrics used to evaluate the results were precision, that's P, recall, that's R, and F1, which is score, which can be calculated through a well-known and documented confusion matrix depicted in table 3. So, all right, confusion matrix, table 3, positive, negative, positive. Then you get the positive column, you get the negative column, TP, FN, FP, TN. In the confusion metrics, each row represents the instance in a predicted class, while each column represents the instance in the actual class. The positive class refers to the manipulated photos, while the negative class represents the original and unmanipulated ones. And we know positive would represent, okay, true positive represents the events where the model has correctly predicted the positive class, while true negative are the events correctly predicted as negative. That is genuine photos, okay? False positives, false negatives, evaluate the events that were incorrectly predicted by the model, namely those that correspond to legitimate photos classified as manipulated and those manipulated that were classified as genuine, respectively. So you're running your tests here. Precision and recall correlate. The metrics described above. Precision measures the percentage of examples identified as true that are genuine and correspond to real photos or videos. Precision is calculated by P equals TP over TP plus FP. True positives, true positive plus false positive. Then you go to recall, the percentage of manipulated images that we can find. The total number of manipulated images recall correspondence to the following R is TP plus TP over, TP over TP plus FN. Okay. And I went to false negatives, and it goes on and on and on. Just saying how the results were factored, giving all of the printout within this report using autopsy, saying how everything was factored, saying it was done like this, it was done like that, this was used, that was used. And so then you get to the graphs. You get false positive rate, false positive rate, false positive rate, and you begin to see, okay, what's happening within the data sets. You see distortion in one, you start seeing the distortion in this one right here, whereas this one, the pattern is together versus a pattern that tends to be a little bit abnormal, right? Or distorted. So again, like I said, different tools. If you want to do a metadata extraction, extracting the same information, if you get a distorted graph in one to verify that data has been tampered with, and you use another two, you're going to get a distorted graph there too. Okay, if he would have manipulated or done anything to tamper with the raw data that he was given, and this goes back to the trial now, it would show up. It would show up. The digital fingerprint will always show up. It's going to always show up. So I know people probably was like, okay, okay. But when video come in for Christina Nance, I will be utilizing some tools, doing some metadata extractions, and you can expect to see, but usually me, I'll show you inside the actual tool that, okay, I want to look at it from the hex view. I want to look at it from a text view. I want to look at it from this perspective. You know, so again, it was a waste of time in court today. Class was in session. The equations are the equations. The math is the math. The science is the science. That's not going to change. Could have simply said data has been authenticated. Data has data integrity. Here's the chain of custody. Here are the reports. And then he could have explained the equation is this. This equation was utilized. That equation was utilized. You want to factor out how much blue and how much green is being used when the image was enlarged. This versus this one. Show him the equations. Show him the chain of custody, which was shown, but he still wanted to, or should have been shown. And the forensic imaging specialist knows about a chain of custody. He had a chain of custody. They had that when we came to court the first time. Now, what he told him was, I'm not going to speak to the algorithms utilized in anyone else's software program. I'm not going to speak to that. Even though it could have simply been resolved by saying, yes, these software tools basically generate the same type of results. They do basically the same thing. Okay. It's just like working a job and you do the same job as the next person. Same thing. They do the same thing. They have the same capabilities. So it's not that one is better than the other, because you utilize them and you ask for metadata extraction or you ask for this and that, you're going to get the same results. If it's tampering going on, the digital fingerprint is going to show up. In the metadata extraction, the information about the detailed information about information is going to show up. Period. It's science and it's math. End of story. Authentication, data integrity. So again, that itis hit me. Uh-oh. So I'm looking forward to, and like I said, I like utilizing different forensic software tools. You know, I don't, when I'm in the background doing different things or doing extractions and analyzing different things, I don't necessarily have a preference of one of the other. I like to utilize all just to look at the different results, knowing that they should all be the same and they have all been the same. But I like to look at the user interfaces. I like a clean user interface. I like to look at the way that the information, when the results come out, are presented within the user interface. I like a clean user interface. I also like to see what options are available for the different forensic software tools. I usually like a lot of options when utilizing a tool. And again, for me, it's not that one is better than the other. One may have more options than the other. And you may be able to do a little bit more with one versus the other. However, again, at the end of the day, the results should be the same. If it's data manipulation, it's going to leave the digital fingerprint, it's going to show up. If you're doing metadata extractions and you're looking at the detailed information about information, if you want to look at the a decimal view of the information in a greater light and manner, it's going to be there for you. You go to the next tool and you want to look at the same hex or decimal view or perspective of the data, ESI, electronically stored information, it's going to be there for you. If you want to look at it in a text view, it's going to be there. You can just compare and contrast, but it's going to be the same, consistent across the board. Unless, like I said, it is something wrong and with the software that you're utilizing, and that would fall into the software having a virus, a worm, a bug, or whatever. All right. So that would impact the integrity of the data. All right. When there's major issues like that, then that's going to impact the integrity of the data. However, but if everything is cool, everything is up to date, everything's good, then fine, straight across the board. Straight across the board. Again, like I said, I would not vouch for one tool over the other because I like to utilize just about all of them or most of them, to check out optimization, to see how much how much of my central process unit that they utilize when the tool is actually going to work. I want to know how much space they take up on my internal space. It's just a host of things that I like to look at. And then again, like I said, I like to look at the different user interfaces and look at the different perspectives. The data is always going to be the same. So if I'm doing the same metadata extraction and I'm asking or requesting for the same information, no matter what tool I'm utilizing, if those tools do the exact same thing, the information and the data is going to be the same. So when he's asking about, well, you used AMP5, you used AMP5, the 5th version. He used input ACE, whatever version he used. But you are doing the same thing. However, the other forensic expert did a little bit more, and he said that. But if they were to do the exact same metadata extraction or to enlarge the image, take that same image and enlarge it, when you go back and you look at the graphs and the charts for those images, it's going to be basically the same printout. Basically the same printout. If you want to look at it from the histogram on, they're basically going to be the same. The pattern is going to have a certain pattern that's going to be systematically the same. If abnormalities were to show up within the data sets or the printout, they're going to be the same. It's going to basically be the same. If you want to look at the chart, look at it on a graph, do a bar chart, do a line chart. If distortion is there, it's going to be the same. It's going to basically be the same. It's basically going to have the same type of pattern or abnormality presented. Okay, so again, that was just a bunch of going on about things that could have been resolved earlier within 45 minutes. It really could have been resolved like that. Why he's talking about, you added pixels. No, I didn't add artificial intelligence decided to put those there. Yeah, the computer calculated, or the software program did the calculations, and this is what it did for resolution, the quality, on the resolution for the printout, for it not to look like a faded copy, but you want a higher resolution, you just know you're going to use more pixels. That's just common sense for me and for this field. That's just common. It's a common sense thing. You want a smaller image, depending on the resolution or quality, then you're talking about different sizes and widths here. It's just common knowledge that if it's larger, it's going to take more. If it's smaller, you utilize less. And so But I would have just shut them down with, here's authenticate, here's the chain of custody. This was authenticated. This was right block. Data integrity is intact. Next question. And I would have said next question. And he would have been like, da, 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 da. I would be like, and here's the printout. Which one you want to look at? Want to look at it in from a line? Want to look at the graph using lines? You want to look at the graph using charts? How you want, what you want to do? Okay. And you want me to tell you, and you can see that it's not distorted. Here it is. What you want? You want to look at the histogram? You want to print out the histogram and look at that too? You can do that too. And then we can, there's different ways we can print. How you want to print, what you want to look at, what you want to do. We shut this down. It didn't need to take all day on that. It was taking too long. It started irritating me. Especially when those tools basically have the ability to do the same thing. Same thing. Can basically do the same thing. So what are we talking about here? Now, I haven't said that. I said I was going off on music. So let's get out of here. Hey, Royalty, how you doing? Oh. Hey, how you been? Oh, you going back into the bushes now? Yeah, I like to break it down. And again, it's done so if anyone should ever have to go to court, they would have some basic knowledge and information on what to say and what they're talking about and what to look for. So again, at the end of the day, you go in there and tell them this is math and this is science. Math is provable, provable and solvable, just like science is. We say science is provable and math is solvable. You can always solve for these equations, plug it in, get to work. You want to know the blue, the green, to grayscale, whatever, put that equation in there for that image and go to work, because trust and believe, it's an equation for it. Utilize it and get to work. You would have been like, I'm not being funny, but for the forensic imaging guy, if I had to come back, and maybe he didn't think to do this, but I know I would have been like, hold on for a minute. I would have hit somebody on the side that I do know that specialize in this, but like, hold on for a minute. Give me this. Run them equations, because I already know I'm dealing with math. Run that equation. Do the printout on the equations. Break that down. I don't care how many pieces of paper you use. I'm about to take this up in there and say, can we put this overhead? See that? Go ahead, solve for this. Get your answer. There you go. You wanted another, is it another way? Yeah, you can work it out by hand. Plug the equation in and go ahead and work it out. You're going to be here all night and all day in the next few days too, by the way. Now go on, work that out, and the rest of us will go home while you figure it out. Don't. And again, it goes back to, I know I said I like to use different tools. See me, I would have showed up and like, okay. So when the other one came, I would have been like, okay, I only presented information to you about one tool that I utilize. However, I use Input Ace too. I've used that tool, and I've used Autopsy. Do you want to report from me using the Autopsy software forensic tool? And I've also used AMP5, you want to see printout for that. I've also used Encase Enterprise. You want to see printout for that. I've used different tools. So, and here's the information from all of them. Since you want to know about the images in the pixel on this image, here it is. But again, like I mentioned previously, I'm going to always use different forensic software tools anyway to do the same thing. I mean, to see if I'm getting the same results every time. That's just me. That's the way I've always done it. So, you know, he wouldn't have been able to pull that, be smiling like, we got him. I'm going to get you. I'm going to have that image kicked out. No, you're not, buddy. No, you're not. Just bring somebody in there who can explain it. And after they get finished explaining it, making you look quite silly, sit your little self down. Or give it to the attorney, the prosecutors. They know how to read, and they can get up there and explain it. Now, having said that, thank you all for streaming. Let's get off into this music. You know, if you have any questions, I will always answer them. And let's get up out of here. Let's go out on music. Like I said, we would. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go out on some music. Yeah. By the way, when I am utilizing my tool in the background and doing a bunch of forensic stuff and things where you have to think, prove, and solve, I always do music. Music is math too. It's that music that energizes you and get you going, and I have you in a zone, and it'll get you through there. Breaker 10-9, the hammer down, we music bound. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Firing y'all up. Y'all supposed to be sleeping, but hey. come here is math. Come on. Hey. Don't let that hit your airway. That bass line is cold. It will never get old. That bass line is cold. This is musicology right here. Ah. Off that bass. Off that bass. Make them instruments talk. Show the bongos too. Woo! Hey. Forget the P-Funk, we put the K-Funk on this tonight. Forget the P-Funk, we put the K-Funk on this tonight. Class was in session. We had to break some stuff down so people can get understanding. And when they go to court, or we had to go to court, ain't gonna be up in there all day talking about no digital forensics. We're gonna get right to the answer. This is math. This is science and math. Math is solved. We can solve math now. You don't need to be up in here all day talking about a pixel and the image is being enhanced and enlarged. Enhancement, because you wanted the image to be larger than the actual size. We're gonna be up here all day doing that. Talking about the data integrity is gone. No, we're not. We're gonna say authentication has been authenticated. We got a chain of custody. It's been right blocked. And here, chain of custody documents and any other printout you need. Want us to explain? Here, look at this. And in this printout, we're gonna include the equations. Solve for this, get back with me after you get your answer. Now, having said that, you all have a pleasant evening and a pleasant night. And remember this, you all, we can look up, we can get up, we can get up, we can go up. Remember to stay vigilant. Again, we are waiting for a response for the surveillance footage pertaining to Christina Nance. We have not forgotten. We're still waiting that out. Once that get in, AMP will communicate with me, we'll communicate with each other, and we'll do what we do. You all have a pleasant evening and a pleasant night, and stay safe, everybody.